Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Beth Costa on the line, and she's Executive Director of Wine Road, Northern Sonoma County in California. Beth, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here. It's a great way to start my day.
All right, Beth. So exciting topic. So sipping wine in Sonoma County. Who would not want to do that? And I understand that you are the advocate. You are the gateway. I'm going to say, all the things going on in Sonoma County, and I'm excited to kind of peel back some layers here, get into what people that want to visit can expect, also into maybe some people that are watching this don't know much about Sonoma County and all the amazing things going on over there. So we'll definitely do a deep dive. But before we do that, we'll start with our Mission Matters Minute. So Beth, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission here. Beth, what mission matters to you?
I think what matters to me, and the reason I love what I do, is I think people have a preconceived idea of, coming to wine country and its lifestyles of the rich and famous and winery owners and chateaus. But really, when you come to Sonoma County, it's really based in farming and agriculture. And, instead of growing wheat and corn, they're growing grapes and they're making wine, and they have great stories to tell. And there's wineries that have been in business for generations. And so it really matters to me for people to get to know really the people behind these wines. And for them, it's a passion. They're making something that they know you're going to buy and you're going to share with your friends. And it's going to be a memorable dinner, even if it's a dinner around a campfire, but like this great bottle of wine, and it was fun, and they can be a part of that. And you can meet them if you come here. So, wow. And we work with the Redwood Empire Food Bank, and we started that probably about 14 years ago. And for me, I just said, we always talk about food and wine, they go hand in hand, but there's so many people that don't have food. So somehow we need to be able to give back to that. So it doesn't sound like a lot, maybe $1 a ticket, but we've been doing it for 14 years. And At this point, it's over $400,000 that we've donated to the Redwood Empire Food Bank. In fact, when we ran this morning, I'm heading over to the food bank because we just did an event after 2 years of, no events. And we had about 1,200 people come. So I have a $1,200 donation check to drop off this morning. So to me, that is my personal mission that matters. And then on a broader sense, it's just, telling our stories and getting people to know, what we're all about here.
Oh man, what an amazing story. I just love bringing on mission-based organizations and entrepreneurs, executives, just to, share why they do what they do, like what wakes them up in the morning, what gets them going and fired up, and obviously giving back over $400,000. I mean, that's an amazing thing over the years to be able to do and to continue to support the food bank. I mean, it's great. So we're going to talk a lot about sipping wine in Sonoma County, but so how did you get on this path to wine and to Wine Road and working in the industry? So tell me a little bit more about what led you here.
Well, really, we moved to wine country, Sonoma County, about 30 years ago. And at that point, I knew nothing whatsoever about wine. And I had 4 little kids at home, and I thought it'd be fun to have just a weekend job. Yeah. And you're living in wine country, so obviously I'll just go find some sort of wine job. Sure. So I applied to this little tasting room, and I lived in the town of Healdsburg. And I said up front, I know nothing about wine, but I like working with people, and I'm a really good merchandiser. I used to work in retail, so it's like I can really fix up this tasting room, make it look great, and I'll learn about the wine. Yeah. And so I really just started as a part-time tasting room person, working weekends, and you can learn about wine. You learn about it from your coworkers, from the winery you work with, from the customers that come in. And it was just so fun. I really loved the whole idea. I loved meeting the customers that came in from all over the country. And I loved learning about wine. And I happened to start at a larger winery that had great training, so we could do comparative tastings and blending seminars. And, really, I had the opportunity to learn a lot. And so from there, sort of, I don't even know how it evolved. One thing led to another, and here I am. Right time. But I've doing this for about 30 years now. And yeah, it's interesting. It's fun. It's a really great place to be working.
What a great story. And I think I think many people that are watching this, when they kind of look back at their lives, and myself included, by the way, and you're like, how did I end up here? I'm like, I know I didn't go to school saying I want to be a podcaster, right? I don't even podcast exists back then. So how did we all end up here? I don't know, but I love your story though. So let's go further into Wine Road. So first off, for people that aren't familiar with the organization, maybe tell us a little bit about the history of it.
So the Wine Road's been around for over 40 years, and it really started with about 7 or 8 wineries in Sonoma County. They were kind of spread out. And, people at that time, 40 years ago, people didn't go wine tasting. That was not the big thing that it is now. So these wineries thought, if we kind of work together and we make a little map that we can give out to some of the hotel keepers and the innkeepers, we can maybe get people to coming to our tasting rooms. And, so they all pooled together some money, some funds to print this map and do that. And it really just has grown from there, with more and more wineries coming on board. And small wineries don't have marketing departments. It's a husband and wife, and they're doing all they can to make the wine and oversee the vineyards and greet people in the tasting room. So Wine Road is an association that these wineries can all belong to. And we have a great website that we can have their information and their contact information. We can talk to customers and kind of find out, what kind of wines people like, and we can direct them to the wineries that would be best suited for them. And wineries really depend on us to help them be informed about, different regulations that come on down the road or things. So from the business side, we can help the wineries with that end. And from the consumer side, we can help customers find the wineries. And we have about 130 winery members now. It's a lot of action.
So maybe for those that have never visited or aren't familiar with the area, maybe tell us a little bit more about the geography of Sonoma County and just kind of what makes this place unique. Of course, we know it's in California, but other than that, what makes this place unique?
It really is. There's so many small little microclimates. That's what we talk about a lot here is if you just went into Alexander Valley, there's valleys and there's hillsides, there's lots of different soil conditions throughout the area. So we represent 3 of the bigger growing regions in Sonoma County: Alexander Valley, Dry Creek, and Russian River. And each of those have, Russian River Valley has Green Valley, and it has Chalk Hill, which are sort of sub-appellations within the Russian River. So that's all defined by the weather in that defined area and the soil in that defined area. And it really can be extremely different. In the Russian River, you might go there in the morning and it might be, 60 degrees and super foggy and cold, and you have a sweatshirt and you finish your wine tasting. Maybe you're at Iron Horse and you're looking out over Green Valley and it's outdoor tasting. It's beautiful, but it's cold. And then when you leave, get in your car and you drive out to Dry Creek to taste some Zins, and boy, you're peeling off your sweatshirt and it's, 80 degrees. It's a 20-degree difference in, half an hour drive away. So
wow,
a lot of difference that way with the climate. And then we also have people that come here for other things. They will go up to Lake Sonoma and they'll go out to the coast out at Bodega Bay or, just float down the Russian River. So there's a lot of just scenic beauty that brings people to the area. Besides the wine, there's redwoods and a lot to do besides wine tasting. We also are getting, a lot of breweries and distilleries, and there's a cheese trail, and there's, a lot of things you can eat and drink and taste along the way.
So, you mentioned earlier that in terms of the types of wineries that you represent, everything from large all the way down to, maybe the husband and wife duo. Tell us a little bit more about the complexion of the different wineries that are there, and just what makes it special.
I think, if I were to, create an itinerary for someone, I try to get people to see really the whole variety of things. You could go to Kendall Jackson, which, is a beautiful winery, and you might be able to find Kendall Jackson on the store shelves where you live. But they also have a demonstration vineyard, which is a really unique opportunity to walk through. Each row is a different type of grape, and different trellising systems. And you don't get to see that everywhere. So that's there for you to walk through. There's also a culinary garden on the property that you can do a tour, or you can walk through there on your own. So they really offer a lot of educational opportunities. And then they do, beautiful food and wine pairings that you can do. And then you can also leave that beautiful setting and you could drive out to Dry Creek and you could go to Frick Winery, which is one man, Bill Frick, and he oversees the vineyards. He, does, works with his guys to bring in the fruit. He makes the wine, and on the weekends, the taste room is open and it's him. He is the one-man operation. And that's not an exaggeration. It really is just Bill Frick. And, that's the passion. And if you go on his website, he talks about selling, whatever it was, I don't know, like a 1960 something old Chevy he sold to buy the first piece of land to start the winery. And, it was a passion, and he's still doing it. So for me, when I have visitors here for the first time, I like people to see everything. You want to see the bigger, grander properties that have, those gardens and things. But then you also want to go to see, the people who make 500 cases of wine that you can only buy at the tasting room. And I think that's, what's fun to take home, take home some wine that you can only get when you come here. And that's a wine that's fun to share with your neighbors and, have some friends over and talk about the meeting the winemaker or meeting the owner and, really getting a story behind why they do what they do. And then you can share that story with your friends. So, and to me, that's a perfect wine tasting getaway.
Yeah, and that's one of the most interesting things to me always whenever I've been on a wine tour, different tasting rooms, is really the stories. Like the stories, the owners, the stories of the wines, the winemakers, and just that real that vibe, that exchange of energy, that exchange. Of course, you're eating, you're doing, nibbling here and there, you're drinking wine. I mean, it's just a great experience overall. Tell us about like the vibe of Sonoma County in general.
I think it's just well, we kind of joke. I mean, it is very laid back. I mean, that is just the way it is. Yeah. There's luxury here for sure, but even luxury is very casual. There's a beautiful high-end Montage resort that just opened in Healdsburg. But if you go up there, there's a lot of locals sitting out on the patio in their jeans having a glass of wine. So it's no matter where you do, it's very welcoming and very casual. And I don't think you ever would feel out of place. I have a lot of people who are coming wine tasting for the first time, and they ask all kinds of questions like, what will happen when I walk in the door? Like, what happens? Do you greet me? Do I have to call ahead of time? I don't know anything about wine. Am I going to feel foolish? I mean, if anything, it would be a score to come to some of these small wineries and not know anything about wine, because they want to tell you. They're excited about what they do. And they could go on and on about, the soil where they're growing the grapes and, and just the whole process. So I think, to me, the vibe is just welcoming and casual. And like everyone feels like family. So many wineries have wine clubs, and they really talk about their club members as like family members. They see them, they have wine club parties maybe 2 or 3 times a year, and the same people always come, and they get to really know them, and they end up knowing about their kids or their kids going off to college or whatever's happening, and they really do treat like family. And I think that's just a cool thing. You don't see that in, you wouldn't see that in a clothing retail environment. You see that in the industry, it's different. In fact, when I first started, my background had been in retail. I was a clothing buyer, and I thought it was so funny coming into the wine business because everyone went our competition. Everyone worked together. Whereas, in a more of a clothing environment, you want people to come to your store. That's what they're going to buy. But if you're going to come wine tasting, you're not going to go to one winery. You're going to go to multiple wineries. So if you come to my winery first, I hopefully give you a great experience, but then I'm going to suggest where you should go next. It's very collaborative. It's like, oh, you should go see, John's winery. You're going to love the Zin he makes. People are happy to tell you about their friends in the wine industry and where they make great wine. So it's a different feel. It's fun.
and it sounds fun. And when I think about kind of like the resiliency of the area? I mean, you've been through, floods, fires. I mean, just the area geography wise. I mean, now the pandemic. I mean, I feel like the people are like just one of the special things that just make up that whole like Sonoma County.
Yeah, it's the first fire we had, I think, was 2017. If I lost track, and that was just devastating. I think it was an urban fire that had never been seen anywhere really in California. It wasn't a fire; it was in neighborhoods, thousands of homes, in a matter of hours. And I think the whole community was so stunned and shocked by it. Everyone definitely came out to support each other and help each other. And then it just didn't seem to stop for quite a while. After that, there was a flood. The Russian River flooded. And then the next year, there was another fire. And then there were fires in our neighboring counties where we had so much smoke, you really couldn't go outside for maybe a week. But everybody just kept going and everybody just kept supporting each other. And then you think, what else can happen? It's like, oh my God, a pandemic. Like that was, who thought that was going to happen?
Yeah.
And when we first closed that down, we all thought, we're on lockdown. It'll be for a month or it'll be for 2 months. We had no idea. But even then, we just picked back up and we figured out how we could do, keep selling wine, getting people to do car hop. We created car hop wine shops where people could order online and just pull up and you'd be out and put it in their trunk and they drive away. And we sold a lot of wine that way. And we made fun videos and everybody really supported each other through that. And we have gotten through it. And I think that we've gotten through it and everybody's almost learned a better way of doing business. On our end in the wine industry, I feel like we've learned how to do a better job at everything.
Yeah.
And I think that they've appreciated their customers even more because you didn't have to keep buying wine, but they did. And they did it a lot of times saying, we love, maybe Carol Shelton, the Carol Shelton wines, and we want to make sure that, we're going to keep supporting her. Yeah. And so there was definitely a lot of that. So, yeah, I feel like, wow, there's nothing else that can happen. And then I think I shouldn't say that.
No, don't say that one, Beth.
Yeah, never say that. I'm like, oh, I should have learned that by now. But
oh, what a story and what a community. I mean, ultimately, it just sounds like an amazing community, very welcoming. Like what can people expect? Like as a tourist, they've never been and they're thinking about it. They're looking at, the wine road and thinking about like they check out the website. They're thinking about like what they're going to book, how their experience is going to go. Like, what can they expect?
I think, well, first of all, you could never have enough time.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people that have never been here and they're here for 2 days. And I'm thinking, oh no, 2 days. But we can make that work, come up with ideas. I think what I would do if I were on my own trying to figure it out, I would really just mix it up. I think it is important to see really small producers, a medium-sized producer, and then somebody who, some of these larger wineries, you think, well, I can get that at home. But even they have wines that are only sold at their tasting room that are not in distribution. And they often have, really nice education experiences. So I don't think you want to do, 3 cave tours, but maybe you want to do 1 cave tour and you want to do 1 food pairing. And then you want to do 1 that's sort of an urban setting where it's just going to be you and the winemaker in, the sort of garage where they're making their wine. So I think it's important to get the whole gamut, really mix up, what you're going to do and who you're going to see. We have great resources. On our website, wineroad.com, that can really help you. And we have a little concierge service. There's no charge for that. And really all that does is we can help you narrow it down. If you're just look at it and you're just overwhelmed, we can help you narrow that down.
And you mentioned that you mentioned that there's peace trail and like just other things going on as well. I mean, we've talked a lot about wine. I want to give some attention to maybe some of the other attractions.
Yeah, so I think that's what's so cool. It's really a makers community, Sonoma County. I mean, there are amazing cheese producers. There's chocolatiers, and there's so many great bakers now, like just amazing pastries. Like the kind of thing where people are driving up from San Francisco to Sonoma County for, their pastry fix on the weekend. Tons of great local coffee roasters, amazing restaurants. And then if you're just, really want that mental health break, I have a lot of, because we have a podcast, and I have listeners who write and say, I don't drink wine, but I love to hear about, the outdoor things to do. And they come here from all over the country just to, get a great room out on the Russian River, and then spend time walking through the redwoods, and then maybe an afternoon driving out to the coast and just walking on the beach. And so you really can kind of do a lot of different things besides wine. And there's lots of brewers, lots of distilleries. Yeah.
I can't let you off the hook on this one. For all my viewers that have been watching this for a long time, they know I love podcasters, supporting the podcasting community, and I've never met a podcaster I haven't liked. So tell us about the content and the podcast overall, because I definitely want my audience to go check it out. So Wine Road Podcast, right?
That's it. So I have a co-host on this show, Marcy Gordon, who's this really amazing food and wine and travel writer. And I've met her at a tourism conference somewhere along the line. I had been following her on Twitter for years, because when Twitter first started, I thought, oh my God, this woman can tell a story in whatever that is, 120 characters.
Yeah.
I mean, she was so witty and clever. And so then I happened to, by chance, meet her at a conference, and we, just definitely hit it off. And she came to my office one day and she said, what the Wine Road needs is a podcast. And I thought at the time, I've never listened to a podcast. I don't even know, where to begin or what that would mean. And she said, you need to bring the map to life. You need a way that's a little more modern, that you can really talk to people. So I said, okay, well, if you want to do it with me and you want to figure it out, we'll do a podcast. So she YouTubed and figured out what we would need for recording equipment and whatever. And we set up our first podcast in the warehouse of our old office, and just started talking about the wineries and who our members are and what you could do when you come to visit. And at this point, we work with a great recording studio, Threshold Studios in Sebastopol. We've done about 150 shows. We post every other Thursday a new show, and we sort of switch it up. One show will be an interview with a winemaker or owner, and that's always just fun to get their backstory and how they started and what their dream was starting their winery. So that's always fun and informative. And then the next show might be an itinerary where we'll do, 3 days in Windsor or 3 days in Healdsburg. And when we do the itineraries, we try to really, tell you where to get your coffee and what winery to see. And if there's a great antique store or, whatever it is, we try to give you 3 full days of really, a fun itinerary.
Yeah.
And so it's really evolved, and we have a great time. Our guests have a great time. We start with wine every show. So that's a good way to start your show. People should definitely tune in and check it out. We have lots of listeners that we meet up with. If they, we always encourage people to email us and tell us what, if they're going to come to the area. And we've met up with listeners, at different wineries for a little wine tasting. And we also try to get feedback from our listeners of if they do come, what they liked, so that we can pass along their advice, what their experience was to our listeners. So you can kind of get the first person experience, like Joe was just here. This is what he did. This is what he loved. So yeah, the podcast is fun.
What a great story. And 150 episodes in, I just have to say congratulations. That's not an easy feat. It's not always easy to, it's not easy to do a podcast. I tell people that. I mean, it can be, but it's not easy to stick with anything, and you've definitely done it. And I'm sure that your listeners and viewers really appreciate that. So I just want to say thank you for keeping it going.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. And I think that we always learn something from particularly when we have the interviews with the winemakers and the winery owners. It's always just interesting to hear what their journey is, because many of them were going to school, they were going to be an accountant, and then they came to some great wine event and they thought, wow, this is so much cooler. And they just, plan B, I'm not going to be an accountant. I'm going to learn how to make wine. So there's a lot of good stories.
Oh my gosh, that's classic. That's a great story in itself, right? And then how you ended up in wine. I feel like it's one of those things just attracts people, and then so it's awesome. So if somebody's watching this, Beth, and they want to learn more about Wine Road, like how can they engage? How do they get help with these itineraries, all these other things? Like how do they get access to the resources and connect?
We try to make it super easy. I mean, I definitely would tune into the podcast, and you can find that anywhere. It is just called Wine Road Podcast because of the itinerary ideas. And then our website is wineroad.com. And on there, we have great printable maps of the area. So I think it's, we also mail a map, which I always joke about. It's like totally old school. But if you're going to come here and you can unfold the map of the region on your kitchen table and get your highlighter, it's like the easiest way to plan your trip. Awesome. So they can order that online. And we do have that concierge service. And for that, what we like to do is people just give us some information. Like, what is it? Is this your first time in wine country? Is it a bucket list idea? Or are you the wine expert? And what kind of wines do you like? And then from that information, we kind of narrow down some itinerary ideas for you. And lots of times we end up going back and forth with customers 2 or 3 times to really help them, fine tune what their trip should be. And we get a lot of great feedback after the fact that it was like, we nailed it. So, we're easy to track down. wineroad.com.
Fantastic. So, first off, Beth, this has been great. I mean, I learned a lot. I'm definitely really interested in going now. I've not been, so I got to put that on my list of things to do.
Put on the list.
It's on the list now, especially as things are opening up now. Everybody's got that itch. They want to go out. They want to go see something, do something, right? I feel like everybody's been cooped up long enough. We're recording this in 2021, just for context. For anybody that doesn't know what that means, you should. But we're recording it 2021. So Beth, what's next? I mean, what's next for you? What's next for the Wine Road?
Well, we are, like you said, opening things up again. And so just a few weeks ago, we had our first event in almost 2 years, the Wine and Food Affair. And
how good was that to be out in a big event?
It was mind blowing. We sold so many tickets in the first hour. I thought there must be some sort of glitch, that it was something is definitely wrong, but it was something was totally right. People were very excited. So we have another event coming up in January, and then we'll have our barrel tasting event in March. And everyone is still very cautious and safe. Everyone is asking for reservations only in their tasting rooms. And it's easy. I mean, you can just go online or give the wineries a call that you want to see if they have room, even if it's that day. And, you want to stop in. If they have seating available, they'll do that. But there are definitely more and more people are coming for sure. And the hotels are all open up. Bed and breakfasts are open up. Yeah, it's a good time to come. And the thing about, I don't want to brag, but the thing about California, like today, it's 65 degrees here, and it's going to be 60 all week. So there's a lot of parts of the country that are not, sitting in a nice sunny 65-degree day. Yes. So, and this is November, and it will be like that, most of the winter. So, we're a good getaway if you're snowbound. Come out to Winter Wineland. It won't be snowy. It'll be nice. So that helps.
Well said. Come out to Winter Wineland. And so one more time, that website so that people can check it out.
It's wineroad.com.
Perfect. And we'll put that in the show notes, of course, so that our viewers can and our audience can just go click on it, check it out. Definitely go check out the Wine Road, not just the website, but make your trip out there. So, Beth, it's been great having you on the show today. It's really been fun getting to know more about your mission, why you do what you do, and really what's going on in Sonoma County around sipping wine, eating cheese. I mean, everything. You got me excited now over here. I'm like, I want to go somewhere too. So again, Beth, really appreciate you coming on the show today. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. Hope you learned a lot. If this is your first time with us at Mission Matters, our goal is to tell stories and to bring guests on that have stories to tell, that want to share their mission, and really for people to get insight into what helps people, what motivates them, and what educates them. So, Beth, really appreciate you coming on, and thanks again.
Super fun. Bye-bye.